The next morning broke over Hanul like a secret. Mist clung to the glass walls of the mansion, and the air smelled faintly of rain and burnt cedar. Somewhere below, the city began to stir, cars humming, markets opening, lives resuming as if the night before hadn't happened. But Stella couldn't forget. She stood at the long dining table, untouched breakfast before her, the events of last night looping in her mind. The stranger's words, the look in Jae-Hyun's eyes when he said, "Someone who's already dead." She shivered. Was that who he really was, a man who could decide life and death as easily as signing a contract? Thinking of running? His voice made her jump. Jae-Hyun entered quietly, suit immaculate, expression unreadable. "I was thinking of coffee," she said, steadying herself. He sat across from her, folding his cuffs. "Good. You'll need it." "For what?" "For meeting the board." She blinked. "I'm meeting your company's board?" "You're my wife," he said simply. "They'll want to see you. And you'll smile. Even if you hate me." "I don't hate you," she murmured before she could stop herself. He looked up surprised. "No. I don't understand you." "That's worse." For the first time his lips curved, faint, fleeting. "Then you're already closer than most." The Kong Group boardroom looked like a stage carved from steel and glass. 12 men in tailored suits sat around a long table, their gazes flicked toward Stella as she entered beside Jae-Hyun. He gestured slightly. "My wife, Stella Kong." The word wife echoed through the room, heavy with disbelief. A gray-haired man near the end smiled, too politely. "We've heard much about you, Mrs. Kong. An international chef, quite the unconventional choice." Jae-Hyun's glance silenced the sarcasm. "She's here because I trust her judgment more than most of you." Whispers died instantly. Stella felt every pair of eyes turn from skepticism to curiosity. As the meeting dragged on, numbers, mergers, politics, she watched Jae-Hyun transform. The quiet man she'd seen at breakfast was gone. In his place stood the ruthless CEO. Every sentence was precise, every word a blade. When he spoke, the board listened or obeyed. But what caught her was not his power. It was the loneliness behind it. That night, she found him on the rooftop garden. City lights shimmered below like spilled constellations. He stood at the edge, hands in pockets, the wind tugging at his coat. "You shouldn't stand that close," she said softly. He didn't move. "You think I'd fall?" "I think you already did," she whispered. He turned then, eyes meeting hers, tired, unguarded. "Do you know what betrayal feels like, Stella?" She hesitated. Being lied to. Losing trust. He nodded slowly. "It feels like silence. Like watching someone you love aim a gun at your chest, and realizing they were always going to pull the trigger." The pain in his voice was raw, startling. "Who betrayed you?" she asked. He looked away. "Everyone eventually does." She stepped closer. "Then why trust me?" "Because you don't belong here," he said. "And maybe because I want to believe someone still can't be bought." For a moment, the distance between them disappeared. The city faded, leaving only the sound of the wind and their hearts echoing against it. Then his phone buzzed. He checked the screen, and every trace of softness vanished. "Go inside," he ordered quietly.
"Why?"
"What happened?" He was already moving. "Do as I say, Stella." Minutes later, the mansion erupted in chaos. Jae-Hyun rushed in with armed men, their movements sharp and silent. Through the glass doors, Stella saw cars pulling into the drive, black, unmarked. "Get her to the basement," Jae-Hyun barked. "What's happening?" she cried. "They found us." Gunfire cracked outside, distant but real. She froze. Jae-Hyun grabbed her arm. "Please, madam, you have to move." Before he could drag her away, a bullet shattered the glass. She screamed, ducking instinctively. Jae-Hyun spun around, drawing a gun from beneath his coat, the gesture smooth, terrifyingly familiar. Time slowed. The ruthless man the stranger had warned her about. She saw him now. Calculated.
Cold. Deadly.
He fired once, twice, each shot precise. The intruders fell before reaching the hallway. When silence returned, He turned toward her, chest rising with controlled fury. Are you hurt? She shook her head, speechless. He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripping her shoulders. I told you not to come into my world. You said I'd be safe, she shouted. His voice broke. I'm trying. The raw emotion in his tone silenced her. His hand lingered on her face, trembling slightly, the only sign of the man beneath the armor. Hours later, after the police and guards had cleared the scene, the mansion lay quiet again. Stella found him in his study, staring at a single photograph, a woman smiling beside a younger Jae-Hyun. Who is she? Stella asked softly. He didn't look up. My fiancée. She died 3 years ago. A car bomb meant for me. Her heart clenched. I'm sorry. She was the last person I trusted, he said. Since then, I've only made deals. She stepped closer, gently taking the photo from his hand. Then maybe it's time to stop making deals. He met her gaze, the faintest glimmer of something human flickering through. And start what? Believing again? Maybe, she whispered. Or just breathing. He laughed quietly, not mockery, but disbelief. You make it sound easy. It's not, she said, touching his hand. But it's possible. For a long moment neither moved. The rain began again, soft against the glass, the same rhythm that had followed them from the beginning. He turned his hand, fingers brushing hers. You should sleep. So should you. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see her die again. Stella hesitated, then said softly, Then don't close them. Just stay here. He exhaled slowly, leaning back, their hands still touching. The silence between them wasn't cold anymore. It was fragile, alive, like something new being born out of ruin. But far away, in a dimly lit warehouse on the edge of Hanul, a man spoke into a phone. She's starting to care for him, he said. The reply crackled through the speaker. Good. The closer she gets, the easier it will be to destroy them both. He smiled. Love always makes the best weapon. And in the mansion above the city, Stella slept for the first time in days, unaware that betrayal was no longer coming. It had already begun. The city never slept, and neither did Jae-Hyun. He stood at the window long after midnight, watching the rain fall across the glass like veins of silver. The mansion lights were dim, the world outside blurred. Somewhere below, Stella's room glowed faintly gold, a soft light spilling beneath her door. For days, he hadn't spoken of the attack. He'd doubled the guards, tightened the routes, and canceled his meetings. But silence had replaced safety. And silence, Stella thought, was sometimes more dangerous than a bullet. She found him there, shoulders tense, expression unreadable, staring at the storm as if it could answer him. You don't sleep, she said gently. He didn't turn. Sleep is a luxury people without enemies can afford. She stepped closer. And love.
His jaw tightened.
Love gets people killed. Her chest ached. That's what you believe. It's what I've seen. She took another step forward, the faint scent of her perfume mixing with the rain-soaked air. Then maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. He finally turned. The light caught his face, sharp, haunted, beautiful in its restraint. You shouldn't care for me, Stella. I try not to, she whispered. A beat of silence. Then something inside him cracked. He reached for her, his fingers brushing the edge of her wrist, a touch barely there, trembling with everything he couldn't say. Why do you stay? He asked. Because leaving feels worse. The words broke him. For the first time, the ruthless CEO looked human, fragile, lost. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. The world outside ceased to exist. The thunder rolled in the distance, but inside that room, it was quiet. Their closeness wasn't rushed. It was slow, full of tension, the kind that came when two broken people finally stopped running from the truth. Every time I look at you, he murmured, I'm reminded that I can still feel something, and that terrifies me. She smiled softly. Good. Fear means there's something worth losing. He closed his eyes, breathing her in. The storm outside mirrored the one within him. Chaos, longing, and the faint, painful hope that maybe this time it wouldn't end in blood. By morning, the air in the mansion was colder. Jae-Hyun arrived at dawn with a tablet in hand. "We traced one of the attackers," he said grimly. "He was ex-agency." Jae-Hyun's gaze sharpened. "Government. Private contract." But the order came from someone inside Hanul Holdings. "That's impossible. They wouldn't dare." Jae-Hyun hesitated. "Sir, the command signature matches your father's old encryption line." Silence. The room seemed to freeze. Jae-Hyun's hand clenched into a fist, knuckles white. "He's been dead for 8 years, he said coldly. "Or someone wants you to think he is." From the doorway, Stella watched their exchange, unease growing in her chest. She had learned to read Jae-Hyun's moods, the small tremors behind his calm, and right now, she saw something she hadn't before.
Fear.
Later that day, she followed him into his private office. "You're hiding something," she said quietly. He looked up, eyes shadowed. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm already here."
Talk to me.
He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "There was a time when I believed I could build an empire without blood. My father proved me wrong. When he died, I inherited everything, including his enemies. Now someone's using his name."
Yes.
"Which means this isn't just business anymore. It's personal." She came closer, her voice low. "Then let me help you." He laughed softly. "Help me? You cook. I kill. Those are very different skills." Her tone turned firm. "And yet you trust me more than anyone else here." He met her gaze, and the truth in her words silenced him. That night, the air was thick with electricity, the kind that came before a storm or a confession. They sat in the library, a single lamp casting warm light over the shelves. Stella leaned against the window, lost in thought. Jae-Hyun sat across from her, reading but not seeing the words. Finally he spoke. "When I first met you, I thought you were a distraction." She smiled faintly. "And now? Now I think you might be my only reason to stop fighting." The admission hung between them, fragile and real. "Then stop," she said softly. "You don't have to keep fighting alone." He rose slowly, crossing the space between them. "You don't understand, Stella. The moment I stop, they'll destroy everything. Then let them come for me too." He froze. "Don't say that." "Why not?" "Because I wouldn't survive it," he said, voice breaking just enough for her to feel it. The rain began again, hard and fast against the windows. He took her face in his hands, his eyes fierce and desperate. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "you stay alive. Promise me." She swallowed hard. "Not without you." For a heartbeat he wanted to argue, but instead, he just pulled her close, their shadows merging against the light, two souls clinging to a moment they knew couldn't last forever. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, their silence spoke louder than thunder. Morning broke pale and heavy with rain. The mansion was quieter than usual, too quiet. Stella woke to find the other side of the bed empty, the faint imprint of Jae-Hyun's body still warm on the sheets. On the nightstand lay a folded note in his handwriting. "Don't look for me. Stay inside. Trust no one." Her heart clenched. She'd seen that tone before, the voice of the ruthless CEO, not the man who'd held her the night before. She dressed quickly, pulling on a long coat and scarf, and slipped out before the guards could stop her. If Jae-Hyun was walking into danger again, she couldn't just wait. The city glistened under the rain. Seoul's streets were half awake, the smell of wet asphalt and roasted chestnuts in the air. Stella followed the trail, the only way she knew how, memory. She remembered the way Jae-Hyun always drove east when Jae-Hyun had business. The way the tinted cars disappeared into the industrial district beyond the Han River. It took an hour, but she found it a half-abandoned dockyard, cranes towering like skeletons over the fog. From behind a shipping container, she saw them. Jae-Hyun and Jae-Hyun standing face-to-face with 3 men in black coats. The men didn't look like businessmen, their movements were too calculated, too military. Her pulse quickened. The tallest of them stepped forward, tossing a file onto the hood of a car. You think we don't know you're rebuilding your father's network? Jae-Hyun's voice was calm. I see. I don't rebuild ghosts. Then you won't mind if we show your wife what kind of man you really are. The word wife cut through the air like a knife. Do-yoon moved instantly, drawing his weapon, but the men were faster. One lifted a phone, pressing play. A video flashed across the screen, a recording of Jae-Hyun in an old boardroom, giving an order Stella could barely believe. Eliminate the traitors. No one leaves alive. The screen went black. For a moment, even the rain seemed to stop. Jae-Hyun didn't flinch. You think that makes me the villain? You killed your own men. I saved the ones who didn't deserve to die, he said coldly. But Stella's breath caught. She didn't know whether to step out or stay hidden. The man she'd come to love, the man she'd started to believe in, was a stranger now. The deal turned violent in seconds. One of the men lunged forward. A gunshot cracked through the fog. Stella screamed before she could stop herself. Jae-Hyun's head snapped toward her hiding spot. Their eyes met, his widening in shock, hers in fear. Stella, no. Do-yoon fired back as chaos erupted. Jae-Hyun grabbed her hand, pulling her behind a wall as bullets ricocheted around them. What are you doing here? He shouted. You left me no choice. He cursed under his breath, pressing her close as they ducked behind an overturned crate. When I told you not to look for me, it was because of this. Who are they? The past, he said grimly. The part one never wanted you to see. When the gunfire finally stopped, the air smelled of smoke and rain. The attackers were gone, leaving behind blood and silence. Jae-Hyun stood still, his coat torn, his breathing ragged. You shouldn't have come, he said quietly. She touched his face, brushing away a streak of blood. And let you face this alone? You think that's love? It's survival. She shook her head. No, Jae-Hyun. It's fear. And I'm done being afraid. For a moment, his resolve cracked. He reached for her, his hand trembling as it cupped the back of her neck. The rain fell between them like glass, cold and sharp, but neither stepped away. If they come for me again, he said, voice breaking, they'll come for you too. Then we'll face them together. He closed his eyes, resting his forehead against hers, a silent surrender. In that fragile pause, love felt like war, the kind fought not with weapons, but with the choice to stay. Back at the mansion, Do-yoon patched his wounds while Stella sat beside him, silent but unyielding. Sir, Do-yoon said quietly, we found something on one of the men. A crest, identical to your father's. Jae-Hyun took the pendant in his hand. It was tarnished gold, marked with the same dragon insignia engraved on the old Kong estate.
His jaw tightened. He's alive.
Do-yoon nodded grimly. Or someone wants you to believe he is. Stella's breath caught. Your father, he was the first to betray me, Jae-Hyun said. And now he's sending a message. He looked at her then, truly looked. If you stay, this won't end until one of us is gone. She met his gaze, unwavering. Then pray it isn't you. For a moment, a flicker of something broke through his darkness. Pride, fear, maybe love. He didn't say which. That night, she couldn't sleep. The storm outside had stopped, but one still raged inside her. Who was she falling in love with? The man who had saved her, or the one who had killed to survive? She walked to the balcony, wrapping herself in a blanket. Below, the lights of Hanul burned like constellations in the dark. Behind her, Jae-Hyun's voice came softly. You'll catch cold. She turned. He stood barefoot, shirt undone, exhaustion written all over him. You're bleeding again, she said. He looked down at his arm. I've had worse. She approached, gently taking his wrist. You don't always have to be strong. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hid more pain than peace. And you don't always have to fix what's broken. They stood there, the night pressing in around them. No promises. No guarantees. Just two people standing at the edge of everything, choosing for one more night to believe in something fragile. In another part of the city, a phone rang. A voice answered, smooth and cold. Report. They're both alive, the man replied. She's still with him. Good, came the reply. Then she's exactly where I need her to be. The line went dead. And far above the city lights, Jae-Hyun held Stella close, unaware that the war between them had only just begun.